Greetings and salutations to all you folks out there. We're going to be looking at the 2 versus 2 Equilibrium tournament today. After that, we can all purge EQ from our systems and not worry about it for another year. The first matchup is going to be on Wonder. This is the 4v4 version 3b, whatever, the closed-in one where you've got a little gap and the teams are playing diagonally opposed. Let me go ahead and click in here and see what our exact team matchups are. We've got Resina and Antrox versus Eggroll and Farms, who has apparently had a seizure as he retyped his name for a name change, but we'll leave that alone and hope that it doesn't cause any ill effects on his gameplay. 2100 and a 1400 versus a 1000 and a 1400. This might be a quick match. We'll get into some higher quality ones later on in the tournament once some of the teams get knocked out of the running. But for now, we're going to break this thing down and see what goes on. Eggroll is Cybrin. He's going for a Hydro Rush after 4 mexes with the ACU, 3 engineers assisting, then a few more power generators, probably a second land factory right over there. We've got Farms in the back building his Hydro to the rear. There is also another Hydro on the front player slot and another to the right, since this map is designed for 4 people on each team. But he is going to drop this one first, then it looks like move order out to the front with the commander. Hopefully he can get some other power online, but he does have 2 on the land factory there. Resina is on second land factory after 2 power generators, which is probably going to lead to a very, very heavy power stall at some point later on in this game, because 2 P-gens is sure not enough to run 2 land factories, especially when you are not building your Hydro till after the second one. Maybe this won't stall out and an engineer will come and catch up the gap with some reclaim, but I do not have high hopes. Sellen's out early to pick off an engineer. Oh my goodness. Units, what are these? Shouts Eggroll as the forward engineer from Farms gets picked up. And then we also have tanks coming from Antrox, making use of those Auroras. Nobody on the north side built any actual units, so I think another engineer is going to go down. That is amazing. I would not have thought that Farms would get shut down by raiding, but there it is, folks. There it is. Antrox going for 3 land factories off of his Hydro and 1 additional power generator, so probably running on, well, no, he is stalling. No extra reclaim coming in. Should definitely be bumping out for some manual reclaim on these rocks in the back. You can see there's a T2 wreck there, boulder below, 2 wrecks there, and 1 here as well. If you grab those, you'll be able to pull your eco into the positive once again and get a whole lot better early build off. 2 Snoops encountering each other. Nope, that is a Spirit, sorry. So this is Aeon, Seraphim, Cybrin, and UEF, all 4 factions represented, and in retaliation for the early raiding that did so much to harm his expansion, Farms is now putting a T1 bomber across the map. There is no air on the other side, so this is going to be highly effective, I do believe, unless they can get some mobile anti-air out to counter. You saying that really didn't help. They're pissed now. Alright, well, hopefully they can convert that anger into some awesomeness. Scout running out ahead of the bomber. Bomber is going to pick up an engineer here, probably, and then repeat fire on the power generators. That T1 anti-air is going to pound away at the bomber, but it is not going to be able to drop it in one pass due to equilibrium balance changes. The T1 anti-air, I believe, has a slightly faster movement speed, so it can chase down bombers a little bit better, coupled with a higher firing rate, better targeting, supposedly on lower DPS, so it has about the same effectiveness. Don't ask me for any rhyme or reason on these changes. It is what it is. Another land factory going down out here. That's going to be a total of 5 for Resina, as Eggroll already has 7 land factories in play, and we're starting to see a steady stream of not Medusas, well, some Medusas, but Mantis as well, moving across the map. A couple engaging here, but 3 tanks will be enough to stop that as we get a little attempted raid on the north with a mutual KO between the 2 tanks. Got 3 Mantis leaking over. Eggroll trying to hit the right side as well as the left, but the ACU will be in excellent place to nail those tanks as they run by, and hopefully they won't be able to get back into the base. That is very close to getting out of range of the ACU, but no, there it goes. Popped right off. Eggroll starting to group up the traditional Mantis steamroll here, where you just get enough in one spot that nothing really can stop it. Rosina is going to have a little bit of an issue getting enough units to the front to slow this down. Atrix could come and help, but that's going to put him in a bad position because we do have 5 land factories online on the left-hand side, along with the air that these players are struggling to deal with. I would love to see an air factory. There are 2 going down on the south side, Rosina going into the air game quite heavily, but we've already got a T2 land factory out for Eggroll, along with a T2 mass extractor for farm. So both of these players are taking the tech route, whereas these guys are rolling out the T1 units, and it looks like they are going to be struggling to keep up. You'll notice that the expansion is going a little bit better for farms than it is for Rosina. This is one of those times where you should probably put the higher ranked or better player. I don't know either one of these guys personally, so I don't know which one of them is better or if that rank is accurate. You should probably put the person with the higher rank in the position that's going to give them more economy, because they're going to be able to spread out more quickly and take control of the map, get that eco, and use it to pound the other players into a pulp. But in this particular case, we're going to see the south expansion fall. Eggroll is going to roll that right under, claiming all of the engineers that were trying to build those mass extractors and completely stopping Rosina's attempt to expand into this area. The ACU is going to come over. I hope those units head a bit more south. Yes, they are, because you got to cut off the flow of units around the back side before they're able to hit the back of the base. I don't think there's any viable pathfinding across that mountain, so they are going to have to come around the nose. Might be able to cross right there, but other than that, no, I may be completely wrong. Nope, the Mantis are going to move to the north. Okay, cool. Alright, so those are going to loop right around the back here, try to kill off some of the build power, some of the power generators in general, wreak havoc, and attempt to slow down that opponent. Rosina moving into the mass extractor location now will have to fight off a few more tanks. Simply not enough units online. Eggroll has got far too many Mantis out to deal with, and he hasn't even started sending out the rhinos that are starting to collect outside of his base. You've got a second T2 mass extractor up for farms, who is now spamming T1 power generators in several different locations. Probably a good idea on a spammy map, because that lets you diversify your locations, I guess would be the best way to phrase that. If T1 units do get in on one side of your base, they're probably not going to kill 100% of your power, and that can be good for you when you have as wide open a playing field as this offers for raiding. T1 bomber down on the bottom left. That could cause some issues, but it looks like that's going to be pulled back just a little bit. Air Scout has seen it, so hopefully interceptors can move over that away and eliminate that threat before it picks off any more expansioneers trying to claim the mexes. Eggroll moving to the north slightly, so that's going to engage a few units from Antrox. Antrox is going to pull back, take cover behind the craters here, as we see Eggroll over in the distance, zapping up that reclaim, trying to get as much mass in his pocket as he possibly can. Antrox getting close to the mass, but deciding not to actually reclaim. This is one of those things that can boost you up in the early game and allow you to do far better than your opponents, because you've got several hundred more mass at your disposal. Take a look at the reclaim fields here. Look how clean Farms is getting. He's definitely reclaiming huge chunks behind his base, whereas these guys are not doing nearly so well. So if you take a look, Eggroll at 5,000, Farms at 5,400, Rosina at 2,100, and Antrox at 0. Literally no reclaim for Antrox. That is a critical error. I don't know why on earth you would not queue. There was an engineer here up at some point, but I guess it has moved on to greener pastures, and now Eggroll is scooping up the reclaim on the other side of the map as well, adding even more mass to the disparity that is already present. Farms moving down to the south now with his units, and to the north, these guys are going to get pinched off and I think eliminated quite quickly indeed in the opening round of this tournament. Got T2 support factories online. Is that another upgrade I see? No, those are building Mantis. So egg roll, not really devoting too much build power to the T2 phase. May go to T3 if there is time in this game, but people may be dead before that time arrives. Here comes the T2 point defense. Might do a little good in some area denial. Do we have radar? That is a good question. There is radar. So if a couple more of those go down around the outside edge, the core base might be protected, but the problem is going to arise in getting this mass back under the South team's control. On the north side, Farms is pushing. He does have the gun upgrades. He'll be able to simply mow down any units that come up to counter him. He's also backed up by about 35 to 40 T1 tanks moving in slowly. We do have some walls and point defense down, so Farms will have to deal with that either with his ACU or with a couple of T1 artillery, but his T1 already is a little bit in the rear. Overcharge is good enough though, dispatching that with ease. New OP point defense. OP point defense setup. Yeah, you don't really want to do this. You want to get wall sections around the PD in a square. Well, are you going to freeze? That means the game is probably ended 5 minutes in the future. You want to get your wall sections up in a square around the PD, maybe add a couple more wall sections to bungle up the pathfinding, but other than that, you kind of want to leave it alone. We'll see if this will unfreeze in just a memento. We've also got T1 tanks on the south. Resina is not going to have enough units to deal with that. T1 point defense right there. Is that even in reach? I don't think it is, and I cannot switch people while the game tick is frozen. So I think that is going to be the end of this replay. We can all look at this and see how it happened. I'm going to go ahead and bail on this one, and we are going to dive into another game to get a little bit better look at some of the other matches. This one looks like a much more even matchup. On the right-hand side, we have Highlander and Blackheart. That is UEF and Cybran team composition. And on the left, we have Branded to Kill as Seraphim and Morax as Seraphim as well. And Seraphim is actually a nice faction for this map because you do have a little bit of water on the north and the south, and you can just flood the other side with artillery without having to worry about any significant amount of pathfinding. So the map is diversity. Let's take a look at the reclaim patterns. There are a few large boulders scattered around. Of note is the 300 mass behemoth that is on the rear line, and then little clumps of rocks along the shoreline that you definitely need to grab to boost your early land build. Over on the right, we've also got some more boulders in with the grass, and then some of these that we looked at earlier. Why are you renaming to Gievmas Blackheart? I can see you. Blackheart is going for first and second land with a minimalistic power build. He's got some reclaim engineers out to make ends meet on the power front. Then to the north, we have Highlander. He is on 4 power generator build with his first land factory complete that is going to be building a mech marine for a little bit of early raiding. Some pickup over here on the boulder, and what is this mod info? Survival manual. What on earth are you doing with an extra mod enabled, people? I don't understand. Branded to Kill is going for second air factory after 7 power generators with some manual reclaim laid in on the tree clumps to the north of his base, and then Morax is going for 2 land factories, then an air factory. So both of these guys are planning for air, and then a second air factory on the hydro on the outside edge. A little bit of reorganization of move orders there as he decides what he wants to manually reclaim to make ends meet and what he does not need to suck up at the earliest portion of the game. Of biggest priority here, oh, there's also Rex out in the center. I forgot to mention this. Stealth Fields 300 mass on both edges, and then we also have T2 transports with some units loaded in them, and then 227 on each of those in the very center. You're gonna want to get out as many units as possible as early as possible to lock down the map control, because as we saw in the last game, if you're able to deny your opponent the expansions, you're going to be much better off in the end, because you're going to have more mass, they're going to have less mass, and that just works out well for you. Third land factory, so that is going to be 5 total for Branded to kill. Looks like no more planned, with an interestingly convoluted power build over there for Morax. I'm a little concerned about their factory counts. Blackheart is going for 4 land factories, no air, with a rather extensive power span that will probably lead into a gun upgrade. And then we do have 4th air for Highlander. So neither one of these guys is very concerned about the air game. If Branded to kill were to go for a handful of T1 bombers, the north side would probably be hard pressed to stop the assault. Land factory going down in the north expansion, so Branded is going to be spreading quite nicely indeed. Morax does have a bomber out, and he's moving his ACU up to the center to grab some reclaim. I already see some tanks scattering around. Looks like Blackheart has gone for the point defense option with his radar in front of the point defense. I don't know why he would build it that way, but he is building that way, so we shall leave it at that. Morax should have the potential to expand into this base, claim himself another 8 or so mass extractors with ease, and that'll put these guys on even footing. This is a serious assault on the other side. A horde of labs moving across the map. That is another thing that has been severely rebalanced in Equilibrium. The labs are now much stronger than they were. Individually, they do quite well versus tanks, especially with some micro due to buffed HP. However, once labs run into large groups of tanks, they do lose out on their effectiveness. Something that Equilibrium did change, though, was that it gave an ability to each of the labs. Of course, the Cellin still has the cloak, and it's not technically a lab, but the flares have a very large vision radius that they leave behind when they die. If that change is actually in Equilibrium, which I believe it is, we may not get to see it because there are other units in the area. So the Aeon Flares leave intel circles behind, similar to the Seraphim T1 Air Scouts, and then these Cybran labs are able to leave a massive stun AoE. Oh, there are no Aeon, my bad. So we're looking for stun when these things die next time we see that happen. I think it's 1.5 seconds to T1 and T2 units in a 7 area of effect, which is incredibly ludicrous. And then the Mech Marine is just that much stronger and doesn't have a special ability. Branded to kill coming in. Looks like all of these tanks are skirting wide enough that the stun will not be able to take effect. Blackheart, no ACUs, please, because that is a direct counter to what his labs are trying to do. The horde of labs is now descending upon the base as T1 bombers try to fend off the early runners. Tanks coming out of the factories are going to move in that direction to try to lock that section down, as it looks like Branded will be able to lock down the rest of this expansion and get that mass in his bank account. Okay, tank will not quite get that assault bot. Gonna escape with 10 HP as the hunters continue to grow in numbers. We've now got about 10 land factories cranking these sons of guns out. For Blackheart, 12. I'm sorry, I actually underestimated what I was looking at. These things are going to be so fast, they're going to be hard to deal with by conventional means. May have to start building, well, no, you can't build counter labs when your faction does not have any labs to begin with. Tank engagement, Highlander going to be pushed back slightly by Branded to kill, not for lack of units, but for the knowledge that that ACU is right back there and you don't want to lose too many tanks when a commander is nearby. Then moving towards the south, we've got tanks looping in towards the base. T1 bomber still harassing, but Highlander does have air units out now. He may be the only one. He does have a small amount of assistance on that factory. At least he'll have enough to be able to push back any bombers that come out. He won't be able to contest air control, but he will be able to snipe them off and prevent too many units from dying. Over on the right, we've got hunters still moving on the map, but they have been pushed away by Morax, who now has his ACU up on the front, along with a relatively large group of tanks. It looks like Blackheart is going to stick with the hunter philosophy He's also moving his ACU up to the front. That would appear to be a move directly into Morax's base of operations, although he did pull that back slightly. Probably don't want to overextend that commander. Morax is starting torpedo according to the chat, but that is definitely a gun upgrade because he is Seraphim, and I don't believe, as the last time I checked, even Equilibrium had not added a torpedo upgrade to the Seraphim ACU. Over on the right, we're seeing more hunters swarming that commander. They will die in one hit. They still only have 100 HP, but those will be able to run right around that gun comm, or the commander that is upgrading to gun, I should say, without disrupting his upgrade. Although Morax is going to move to the south to make sure that that run by isn't effective. There's that stun that I was just talking about. As the hunters are killed, units go still, and you'll lose that DPS for a second and a half. That can be quite brutal indeed when you're talking about an engagement of this size, because you're taking offline about 10% of your opponent's potential damage as your own units are free to harass them. 4 T1 bombers going to clean up the mess. The ACU comes free, only shedding about a quarter of its HP. And now the Hunter Swarm is so great in proportions that it's actually running into pathfinding problems around this bank of stone. Still more land factories being built as the numbers grow ever higher. I don't know that a gun upgrade is even worth it on this ACU, all things considered, since all of the units die in one hit anyway, and the retargeting time on the gun comm would kill some of the extra shots that you are firing. I think Blackheart may run into more problems with pathfinding than with his actual unit implementation, because we're now seeing streams as opposed to clumps, which is not a good thing to have when you're trying to swarm your opponent. Looks like these center mass extractors are going to get picked up. Branded is going to steal those away from Blackheart, if at all possible, but a couple tanks might disrupt the plans. Still more tanks getting stunned. Blackheart pretty high on HP. He's complaining, yes, all of my labs are stuck, as his pathfinding issues grow yet worse due to the land factories and build power that are in this channel. Looks like multiple T1 bombers still online for the left side team, and an overwhelming air control is in their possession. We've got T2 online. Somebody at least is going for some T2 land. Probably going to start up a pillar spam to try and deal with some of this ridiculousness that is going on around the map. Morax has gotten himself into a bit of a bind. He is out alone. He is surrounded by units. He has a commander on him. I think that he may be dead. I take that back. He is most definitely dead. He's only got 3 tanks to his name to try to defend himself. He should definitely be pulling these engineers right here, building a T1 point defense for his ACU to run back to, and that T1 PD would be able to kill a near infinite amount of labs at only 100 HP apiece. As it is, he is at 2 veterans. He's still killing many labs around him, well on his way to a 3rd veterancy, but he is at 2,700 health. If Blackheart has got overcharge, which I think he does. No, he does not. I thought I saw an overcharge just a minute ago. Blackheart is going to be able to simply wear this ACU down, and Morax will not have the regen to come back from it. Trying to get the T1 PD online, he is going to be successful, but it's still not going to be enough. We've got 900 HP. Bomber passing through again, 600 HP, 4,500 on Blackheart's ACU. This is actually in danger territory, never mind. The T1 point defense will go down with a nuke from Morax, but a bomb comes in, and we're in mutual KO territory. Morax needs to hug that, and he's eliminated the massive spam from Blackheart. That point defense and the T1 bombers coming in together to ensure the mutual nuclear oblivion that almost worked, Morax throws out. Yeah. Well, that leaves a 1 versus 1 between Branded to Kill and Highlander TX. It looks like the unit count advantage definitely goes to Branded to Kill, but we have a pretty severe lack of T2. I'm debating on... It looks like Branded to Kill took all of these bases for himself, whereas Morix was trying to expand to this side. So Morix dying does not actually hurt Branded to Kill very much. Only one base was lost. He can reclaim that, get the mexes under his control, and things are looking pretty good. Whereas on the north side, Highlander has only got one base with a handful of mass extractors on the other side, 2 to be exact, and not enough build power to make things work. So he's trying to get engineers out, rebuild land factories, reclaim things, get mass extractors under his control, but I don't think he'll be able to expand fast enough to overcome the vastly superior unit count and map control of Branded to Kill. 59 mass per tick and 1,000 power versus 41 mass per tick and 350 power. That is a huge, huge difference to overcome. Highlander running about 5,100 reclaim versus the 12,000 reclaim and climbing for Branded to Kill, who also has air control at his disposal, a tool that he can use to great effect. Not many of the tank shots connecting with the T1 point defense. Those wall sections definitely doing their job, but T1 artillery has now started to come in along with a light amount of AoE from the Mongoose firing in the rear, so a little bit of ground will be made up by Highlander, but we now have Ilshivas moving into the field, which will more than be able to contest strikers, or not strikers, pillars. I do know pillars are quite strong, but Ilshivas are definitely one of the units that can match them, especially with a handy little bit of kiting. We've got Mongoose and pillars on the north side as well. Looks like another air factory going down after a TG power generator that surely, yes, oh good lord, the stall. Holy cow, that looks like one of my games. TG power generator finishing will help him out tremendously, but he is going to, I think, be slowly but surely ground up into a fine consistency of paste. I don't know that there's anything he can do to stop it. I believe this team is going into the losers bracket. He's not going to give up quite yet, though. Got units moving to the south, going for a little run by, try to raid the expansion. Will get one mass extractor kill, but between the T1 bombers and the T1 point defense that's online right there on the beach, I don't think that anything will go in their favor. Looks like the north side might be slightly more successful, maybe 2 to 3 mass extractors killed, depending on how this goes. But again, T1 point defense is in place to provide a little bit of eradication for run-bys that do make it through. Will come in quite handy indeed. Oh my goodness, they actually managed to kill the T1 point defense. But there are Ilshivas moving up to the front now. That game freeze probably means that 2 to 3 minutes in the future, the game has ended. But at least the game didn't completely shut off this time around. Looks like T2 is continuing to be what goes into place. 290 still, hard stalling. There's the T2 power generator. So that was over 200 power stall that he was running to try and get that power generator online. Not a good place to be at all. He was probably depending on Blackheart to a certain degree for his power overflow to float his economy. Another bad thing about losing a teammate in a 2v2. I don't know why on earth I am yawning so much. Perhaps there is a severe lack of oxygen in the room. Perhaps I should get a canary to be in here to warn me of noxious gases in the casting room. Ilshiva's on the north, gonna push forward, and I think there are now enough units in this clump to push against the base and have some hope of getting through. We can see Branded to Kill claiming even more of the map. 2 bases on the right-hand side are now under his control. Flak moving out to the front to die against this T1 point defense. And Ilshiva's continuing to move towards the north. I like the fact that there are some more TG support factories coming online now. The pillars may have been strong enough to save Highlander in the past, but alas, that time is gone. Branded to Kill running nearly triple the economy of Highlander, and has also got huge amounts of build power at his disposal. T2 upgrade on the ACU. Looks like 3 T2 power generators versus the 1, almost 2 for Highlander, more than doubling his power income as well. Kiting back with the Ilshibas, staying well clear of things so that he can hopefully deal more damage than he takes with these units. And as we survey the rest of the map, the blue has become overwhelming. He's starting nano repair, probably gun after that. That is going to be entirely unnecessary. And I am going to bump up the speed as we wait for the inevitable explosion of Highlander's ACU. Hydro going down, T2 support going down. That's all the build power on the front line. Then the ACU has now walked into the oncoming Ilshibas. I don't think... No, Highlander does have overcharge, and he is abusing it, trying to kill as many units as he possibly can as they run by him into his base. Engineers dying horribly painful deaths all the way around. The Ilshibas should definitely be targeting that T2 PD power generator, because that will take Highlander's overcharge offline. More units waiting to move up, and factories are falling left and right. We all know how this is going to end. It's just a matter of which unit gets the kill. And a brave little tack launcher. Did that even get a tack missile off? I don't think it did. Sadness, sadness. Highlander doesn't look like he's going to run for the water. He's just going to take his medicine. Moving slightly away from the T2 power generator, but he is in range, and there comes the warm and loving embrace of the nuclear oblivion that waits for us all. Branded to Kill takes the win on that one, knocking Blackheart into the loser's bracket. That is gonna wrap everything up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like and share it with someone. If you want to support the channel, catch the streams, or join the Discord, check out the links in the description. Thank you all for being at least partially insane, and I will see you in the next one.